stay tuned to the end of this video. I have an announcement to make of what I'm going to do this weekend. It's not really that big type thing, but something I kind of thought of doing. So, now that I have reviewed all 10 movies in this pick 10 horror 4 that I picked, The Return, it's time to rank all 10 of these movies. And let me tell you, these movies range from really good to bad to that's okay to what the fuck am I watching? Okay, I think I picked a good spread of movies for this, but just yeah. So coming in number 10, the worst of the bunch, absolutely worst of the bunch, is Venom. This was nonsense. Okay, like you have story threads that don't come back around. You never come back to because the characters with them are killed off. You have the whole, oh, we should stay together or go to the same college, and then the boyfriend's killed off, so it doesn't really add to anything. Oh, your dad really loved you, Sean. Gets killed anyway. It doesn't really matter. These plot threads. When you think of bad 2000s horror films, this is in that lineup. You have some good actors though, and it could have worked with a better script, better effects, and not the Weinsteins producing it. Because they're cheap asses. The worse than that, but I'm not gonna mention that. But yeah, just Number 9 is going to be Shredder. And this is a fun, schlocky type movie. I do recommend it. I just, I would go back to it more than my number 8, which I'm going to talk about. But quality-wise, it's just not there. The twist of who the killer is obvious once you really start to think about it. And then, I don't know, it just... I don't know. The whole girlfriend never really loved him while you're still together type situation. I don't know. It's just weird. The idea of a slasher at a ski resort is pretty cool. But again, much like with Venom, it's all about budget. It's all about drive. It's all about power. It's all about, utilizing that idea to its full potential, and it didn't do it. Number 8. It's going to be The Roommate. And this is one of those where I was like, The Roommate, I remember that being okay. And I watch it now and be like, it's just meh. It's just meh. Meh. I just, no. Like I said, I would go back to Shredder before this, but I think quality-wise, it's a little bit better made. I mean, it's freaking Sony. But still, it's just, Who directed it? Christian E. Christensen. That's a name. But yeah, it's like a CW thriller, slasher thriller, of some CW thriller type thing. It's got a bunch of CW stars on there. It's just, I don't know. Number 7 is going to be the latest review in this, and that is Attack of the Killer Bears. And this was, or Night of the Killer Bears, excuse me. And, this was stupid. First of all, you start off with not the bears, and then a bear shows up. And then it's not really bears, though. I didn't mention this in my review. It's just people dressed up as bears. Then there's a twist with the character of Amy that just makes it go off the rails. Tony's the best character in this movie. There's too many freaking plot twists in this movie that just don't add up to anything. And I don't know. It's just... I don't know. I do recommend it, though. If you want some schlocky fun, I think it'll be fun. All right. So this is next one. Cry Wolf, number 6, Cry Wolf. And before I can tell you why this is where it is, there's something I need to bring up. Because I totally glossed over it in my review. Okay? Because I didn't catch it. Jon Bon Jovi is in this movie. All right? He plays a teacher, Mr. Walker. Right? Having an affair with a student. Whatever. And Mr. Walker gets shot in the heart. Let me say that again. John Bon Jovi gets shot through the heart, and you're to blame. Honey, you give love a bad name. And I didn't catch it. I didn't catch it. No, if you watch my review, I didn't mention that. I just said he gets shot. And I didn't catch it. It wasn't until I was watching the Dead Meat podcast, I'll credit them for this. I was watching it, and they bring it up, and I went, fuck. I didn't even catch that. Why didn't I catch that? Because this movie is so fucking confusing with all of its plot twists. It just had a lot of plot twists. These make more sense, I guess. It's all a prank or whatever. It's a prank, bro. But it gets so confusing by this point that I was just ready for the movie to end. And I really wasn't thinking. Had I been thinking, I would have cut onto it. And so yeah, for those of you who are going to watch that review and be like, hey, you didn't mention that. It's so funny that it happens. They had to have known. They had to have done it on purpose. Just for the hell of it. Right? And, well, you didn't mention it. See this review. You know, if anyone mentions it, I'm going to say, watch the ranking. Because I do mention it there. But yeah, this is fine for what it was. But I feel like there could have been more to it. Make it more slasher-like. I feel like they were trying to veer away from the slasher thing. They made it more like I mentioned, April Fool's Day. But it just, I don't know. To me, it's a better remake of April Fool's than the remake of April Fool's Day. So, you know. But, yeah, I don't know. Number five is Stay Alive, the first one I reviewed for this series. And going back to this, I realized this is just, it's fine. You know, the idea of video games, you die in the game, you die in real life, it works. But clearly, the writers of this movie said, well, that's the premise. You die in a video game and die in real life. And so they had to keep that going. Except that half of the people in this movie don't actually die in the game. Like, it starts with Phineas. He didn't die in the game, and yet they come back to it and he's dead in the game. No, he's turned off the game. It's playing, you know, it played without him. And even later, when Frank Muniz is being hunted, he goes, bitch, that's cheating. You know? And he supposedly dies in the game, but he doesn't because he was by the roses. I like a dozen red roses, please. Oh, hi, Mark. And then when it's time for the climax, it just like kills off her. She kills off her, and she wasn't killed in the game. And it starts going after the others. They are not dying in the game. It's time for the climax. No time to follow that premise anymore because no one's playing the game. So, yeah. And as I mentioned, there was an addendum video in this playlist. There was an unrated version, and I kind of want to see that in its full glory because I feel like that's the better version of this film. This is the PG-13 version. And there are things in there that just make more sense with the story than what is in here. You know, there's like a whole 15-minute scene taken out that will kind of explain this more. But, yeah. All right, top 4. And number 4 is Darkness Falls. This was a nice first-time watch for me. I enjoyed it for what it was. It's not one of the best of 2000s horror, but I feel like it's a decent one. It has some decent stuff. And it is PG-13. I think it's one of the better PG-13 horror films out there. The idea of this tooth fairy is pretty good. I don't think that like the premise is really thought out when it comes to the tooth fairy. Because, again, much like with Stay Alive, there's another version of this somewhere. It's not hasn't been published, but there was like an R-rated version or something of this, or another version of this that they wanted to make. They started filming this and then stopped for 9 months and reshot stuff. And there's remnants of their original premise where you have to look directly at her for him to come after you, which, you know, is in the beginning in certain parts, and then it just sort of disappears halfway through the film. It was going to be a big part of the finale of this. And then you have, you know, the original ending is kind of hokey, what with, because they were going heavy on the you gotta look at her thing. He goes blind, so she's like, I think she's gone. Well, how do you know she won't come back? Because I'm blind. Because it was specifically after him, which would have made more sense, but also there's the son who's actually the brother who was supposed to originally be the son. I don't know. But I still think it's an interesting watch. Alright, number 3. These are the heavy hitters now. We got Lake Placid, which is a nice creature feature film. It's great to watch, to have that fun 90s creature feature vibe. And here Betty White swear like a sailor. She calls them cocksuckers. It's fantastic. Oliver Platt is great. Although that fucker should be dead. He gets chomped on by a gator. He's just fine. But he is being taken to the hospital, I guess. But he's fine. They should have made a sequel. They did. 3 of them. 3 or 4 of them. Well, they made 3 Lake Placid movies. Or 4 Lake Placid movies. 4 Lake Placid. It was like Lake Placid 2, Lake Placid 3, Lake Placid Final Chapter, and then Lake Placid versus Anaconda, which I don't know. And the CGI is a little janky, but it's fine. Number 2, Step by Step, One by One, Climbing Jacob's Ladder. This is a nice psychological thriller. Now, you know me, psychological thrillers, sometimes they can go one way and then go another. And, especially if you try to, shove Hellraiser stuff into it. Yeah, I'm not stopping with Hellraiser Inferno. And to a degree, a Hellseeker as well. Had a little bit of that vibe. It was a psychological thriller that had Hellraiser stuff shoved in. But I think I like that one more. This Hellraiser Inferno gave me a freaking massive headache when I watched it. This is a little bit jarring, but you can get to the end. The ending is kind of cool. Going up the stairs with his son, you know what I mean? And just all the crazy stuff that goes on. And yeah, it is kind of confusing, some of the stuff that he sees in his head. You reveal that he is dying. This is the last things that he's seeing. He's fighting for his life. But how did he know that his group was tested on? How did he know the exact information from this guy telling him who this guy was, the whole thing? I don't know. But it is a good movie. But at number 1, bar none the best of this, is Stir of Echoes. This was fantastic. This was a great ghost story, a great spook movie. It's just a shame it came out the same years as heavy hitters like The Blair Witch Project or The Sixth Sense. Especially The Sixth Sense. This came out like a week after The Sixth Sense came out, and this went nowhere near as big as that was. And I think it might even be better than The Sixth Sense. Don't at me. I love The Sixth Sense. Yeah, I had great memories from when I was younger watching it. But I think when it comes to telling a ghost story, this is done better. It's not like The Sixth Sense has a lot of gore shots just to freak people out. This is a ghost story where it's like a mystery, trying to find out what's going on. It's not for the shock factor like The Sixth Sense was. And so I think it works better as a ghost story, as a man trying to, The only thing that I had a big criticism for was the fact that he just has these powers. His son has these powers already, and he had to have his unlocked. I thought maybe it should be like Insidious, where he had them when he was a kid, like his son, and they had to hypnotize him to get rid of it. And then, what's her face? Lisa, hypnotizing him, brought that back. But, regardless, this is a pretty good fucking movie. I'm probably going to watch it again at some point. Well, a lot of these I'll put back in, but this is great. So it comes in at number 1. So there you have it. The end of Pick 10 Horror 4, The Return. Now, what does the future hold for this series? Will there be a Pick 10 Horror 5? Yeah, probably. Probably. Much like with Tubi Horror Weekend 5, if I ever get around to doing that, those will probably be the last ones. I don't want to go any beyond 5 unless I do, unless I find more stuff to watch. Who knows? But I'm going to do other variations. Like I was talking about doing a Pick 10 Horror Sequel-a-thon that's not numbered, where it could just be, another variation of Pick 10 Horror, only sequels, which I thought about doing before. It would have been Pick 10 Horror 4 Sequel-a-thon, but taking the 4 out now, taking the 5 out would be, just so, just so I could do the Sequel-a-thon separately and a horror one, another part 5 with a horror if I want to. This weekend, I'm doing something I've never done before. I'm struggling because once I say this, I have to do it. And I do want to do this. So on the channel, I have a series called Retro Rewind. Well, I review episodes of TV series from when I grew up in the 90s and early 2000s. With my block being 2005, 2006. 2005, I turned 18. 2006, I graduated, so it's around there or so. And I'm going to do that this week. I'm going to do a bunch of them. After I'm done with this, I'm going to upload my review of Night of the Killer Bears. I'm going to upload this. Starting tomorrow, Saturday, I'm going to start doing these. I'm going to write down a list tonight of ones I want to do. But I can't tell you the first one I'm going to work on. Be the first one that comes out. The very first episode of Retro Rewind that I did was a story arc on the Gold Ranger from Power Rangers Zeo. I'm doing another story arc, specifically the 4 episodes that a certain character appeared in the real adventures of Johnny Quest. Yes, in the first episode of this Retro Rewind weekend, it's not going to be the name of the playlist, it's going to be in a Retro Rewinds, but Retro Rewind weekend, we're going to look at the tragedy of Ezekiel Rage. It's going to be a fun one. I'm going to have to watch 4 episodes for this. Only 4, because it was probably the best villain of the new Johnny Quest era, and he was only in 4 episodes, so Third was really the main protagonist, and then Dr. Zen did show up too, but yeah, we'll do all that stuff with that. So, yeah, so thank you for watching. I've been Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.